Yemen is mobilizing. Yes, that Yemen. Ansar Allah, the Houthis, as you may know them, they are mobilizing in a very, very big way right now. Armed Yemeni tribes are declaring full readiness across the country following Ansar Allah leaders al-Houthis call, Saad Abdul Malik al-Houthis call to end the Saudi-led U.S.-backed aggression, blockade, and occupation. Now, you might be sitting here wondering, thinking, what is going on? Well, let me explain. How many of you remember, and I know this was like in the thick of all the craziness, right? There's so much going on. But how many of you remember not too long ago, right? It was like January, I believe. January, February. I think it may have been February. The UAE and Saudi Arabia, they both had proxy forces in Yemen, which controlled different regions of the country. They are occupying it, okay? Now, you might remember that the UAE-backed proxy forces in Yemen were kicked out of the country by the Saudi-backed proxy forces in Yemen. You remember that? I dedicated a part of my stream to it one day. We, of course, talked about the threats to Ansar Allah in Somaliland, but we also talked about the threats to Ansar Allah and the government in Sana'a, Yemen, from internal proxy forces. The UAE and their forces were one of the threats. The Saudis were another, and they have been for a very long time. It goes without saying, if you have followed any of the news about Yemen over the past decade, you know very well the carnage, the criminal acts of aggression that were brought unto the people of Yemen from Saudi Arabia and Saudi-backed forces, as well as, of course, the UAE and the United States and Israel. Okay? When I visited Yemen, we drove one day from Sana'a to Sada, which from Sada you can see the Saudi border in the distance. Not too far distance, but you can see it from the mountainsides in Sada. And along that 7 or 8 hour car drive to Sada, and as you got closer to Sada, everything was completely bombed out. And we're talking, 10 years ago, these locations were bombed. Homes bombed. Entire villages being bombed. You had universities bombed. You had hospitals, cancer hospitals bombed. Literally anything that the Saudis and their coalition could bomb in this region of Yemen, they did. As they also installed a brutal, horrific blockade of Yemen, which brought about hunger, starvation, and ultimately death for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of Yemenis. Now, this aggression from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and the United States went on for about a decade, and I saw the ramifications of it in Yemen myself. It was horrifying, even years after the damage being initially inflicted upon the brave people of Yemen. But something very interesting started to happen in 2026, okay? In 2026 and 2025, not only did we see U.S. airstrikes on Yemen, not only did we see Israeli strikes on Yemen, we have also seen, to a much lesser degree, we have also seen Saudi action against the Ansar Allah government and the people of Yemen under Ansar Allah leadership in Yemen. We have seen this from Saudi Arabia directly, and we have seen this from Saudi-backed factions and forces who are now absolutely unimpeded from any sort of UAE-backed scuffles in the country in early 2026. When the Saudis kicked out the UAE-backed forces in Yemen, again, I dedicated a segment to this on our show, and I said, to me, this is worrisome. Why is it worrisome? Because prior to the UAE-backed forces getting kicked out, the UAE-backed forces and the Saudi-backed forces were often clashing and fighting with one another. Now, with the UAE forces backed out, the Saudi forces are going to take all the territory that the UAE forces once controlled, and they're also going to have but only one target instead of two on their radar, that being Ansar Allah in Sana'a, Yemen. Now we are beginning to see that threat actually manifest, okay? And Saad Abdul Malik al-Houthi, the leader of Ansar Allah in Yemen, is not messing around. You can see that tribes are declaring their readiness for this mobilization and in the face of Saudi and Saudi-backed threats.
شخص أو أشخاص يريدوا بمس الكرامة.
So these are tribes across Yemen that are preparing for this mobilization. By the way, Yemen, I mean, like, I'm not even joking. I tell people this story, but in Yemen, when you turn as a male, when you turn 1 year old, like you're a baby, you turn 1 year old, your first gift on your first birthday is an AK-47. That's every man in Yemen, when his son turns 1, gifts him an AK-47. That's literally how the country works. When you're on the streets, everyone is strapped. Everyone's got AK-47s everywhere. It's just like a revolutionary society. That's just how it is. Everyone is always armed to the teeth in Sana'a. Yemen's Houthis, Ansar Allah, have begun large-scale mobilization to confront any movement by Saudi-backed forces. This comes after Saad Abdul Malik al-Houthi, Ansar Allah's leader, gave a speech a few days ago where he called for mobilization and warned against the possibility of renewed Saudi aggression against Yemen. We also have updates here from Yemeni media who write, the statement by the General Mobilization Forces in the Republic of Yemen marks the beginning of a new phase, characterized by complete readiness and comprehensive action to confront aggression. It signals the start of a pivotal phase of jihad to counter the aggression and occupation imposed on the Yemeni people for over 11 years. 1 second here. Okay, we're back. We're back. I think we're back. We're back. One's in the chat if we're back. One's in the chat if we're back. Good? Okay, thank you. The situation has reached a point where silence is no longer an option in the face of the state of neither peace nor war prevailing in Yemen. Confrontation has become, a fateful choice given current developments, with its trajectory linked to the Palestinian cause. This general mobilization comes in response to the call issued by the leader of the revolution, Saad Abdul Malik al-Houthi, to reinforce the fronts of honor and dignity with mujahideen and to coordinate with the armed forces with the aim of raising the level of readiness and preparedness to confront all eventualities and challenges. In this context, the leader of the revolution, Saad Abdul Malik al-Houthi, called for strengthening cooperation and integration of both the official and popular levels to confront the dangers and challenges arising from the comprehensive hostile targeting of the Yemeni people by their enemies. This includes the occupation of vast areas of the country, the control of the national oil and gas resources, the violation of the country's sovereignty and independence, and the continuation of the blockade and comprehensive economic war. Yemen faces a number of challenges and dangers, both internal and external. The internal danger lies in the mercenaries and those devoid of national conscience who have sold out their country for money and become tools for implementing agendas aimed at destroying the homeland, undermining its unity, and tearing apart its social fabric. As for the external threat, the most prominent threats are the Saudi and Emirati ambitions in Yemen, and what is happening in the southern and eastern governance, the destruction of the country's resources, the plundering of its natural wealth, and the control of its ports and maritime access through armed militias for this purpose. This has left these governments languishing under the yoke of Saudi and Emirati occupation. The presence of the Israeli enemy in the Horn of Africa, particularly in Somaliland, and the establishment of military bases there poses a threat to Yemeni, Arab, and Islamic national security, Due to the region's sensitive geographical location and its importance for the international navigation, this necessitates a unified Arab and Islamic stance to confront this danger. Now, also, we have seen massive tribal rallies for this mobilization held all across the Ansar Allah governed Yemen. We have more photos and videos from Hodeidah, the port, which was heavily bombed during the U.S. Israeli aggression against Yemen. And this is what true revolution looks like. It's what true revolution looks like. The masses are, in fact, ready for whatever is thrown their way, whether it is this base and Emirati and Israeli cooperation and coordination, militarily speaking, in Somaliland, this fake country they've created, whether it is Saudi-backed aggression or a direct threat from Saudi Arabia to their north, whether it is Emirati aggression, whatever it could be, they are prepared. Now, you know what's so interesting is during the Saudi aggression, which lasted for over a decade against the brave people of Yemen, the Yemenis, they held in the face of every single type of adversity that could be thrown their way, every single crime that could be brought onto their people. They held strong. And also, back then, the Houthis did not really have a robust, military technical capability. They could not back then launch drones and or missiles to the Zionist entity. Despite the fact that they did not have a robust defense sector, despite the fact that they, did not have Iranian surface-to-air missiles, which we have seen the Iraqi militias use to knock, air refueling aircraft from the United States out of the sky, despite the fact that they didn't have these surface-to-air missiles, these air defense systems that Iran has used to knock F-35s out of the sky, they still held their own. They persisted and they survived, and they came out stronger, as we can now see. Despite these facts, in the midst of the Saudi aggression, Yemen was able to target Saudi Aramco oil fields, which in a single strike back then, when they did not have strong capabilities, resulted in global oil prices spiking by 10 or 15% from a single strike that Yemen launched. That's how much global oil prices skyrocketed for several days. And it was because of just one strike back then when they had nothing. Now, they do have the capability to launch hypersonic missiles at the Zionist entity. Now they do have the capability to penetrate Israeli air defense systems, the Iron Dome, with not just missiles, but also high-tech drones. Now they do have Iranian-produced surface-to-air missiles, which have pretty strong capabilities as were displayed by the Iranian-backed factions in Iraq and by Iran themselves during the Ramadan War. The idea that any sort of aggression against Sana'a, Yemen, against those under the revolution of Saad Abdul-Malik al-Houthi will go any better, will go even 10% as well as they did during the decade plus of Saudi, Emirati, and U.S. aggression against Yemen, it is so stupid. The U.S. sent a coalition of 16 navies, to confront the Houthis in Yemen and dislodge them from the seat of power in Sana'a, and they failed. Not once, but twice. Once under Biden, once under Trump. 16 countries. The United States is so terrified of Yemen that they can't even send their warships near the Yemeni coast now. Because even if they go somewhat near the coast of Yemen, they are fearful that they will become a target. So they have to sail all the way down across across South Africa to avoid Yemeni waters. But somehow or another, I guess Israel and Somaliland think that they're going to win. Somehow they think that, I guess, Saudi Arabia and their ragtag band of bought-off mercenaries are going to dislodge Ansar Allah. I don't know. I don't know. It seems ludicrous to me. But then again, they have all the money in the world. You know, buy all these people off, send them into a mission that will not succeed. You know, it is possible that Saudi, the UAE, Israel, you know, will try something like this. But needless to say, they will not heed this warning, just like they did not heed the warnings of those who said that war on Iran would not go well either. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.